Greetings, everyone. So here again in this video, I want to address another comment somebody made regarding the statement that the Mosaic covenant is part of the Abrahamic covenant, which is not true. This is where we have to dig into the book of Hebrews, where we read in chapter 7, verse 11, that if accomplishing was through the Levitical priesthood, which need is there still for an ulterior priest? Ulterior here means of a different kind of a priest to let rise according to the order of Melchizedek. The order of Melchizedek, which contrasts the order of Aaron according to the Levitical priesthood. The very first mention of a covenant with Moses is right here in Exodus 19:5, following by the statement, "And you will come to be for me a regenome of priests," the Levitical priesthood, where the 10 Commandments are being worded to Moses in the next chapter, Exodus 20, where in chapter 24, we see the document being sprinkled with the blood of the covenant. So this is the same covenant as Exodus 19:5, according to priests. So this all belongs to the order of Aaron, which follows. Hence Exodus 28:1. Aaron, for his being priest to me. Where when the children of Israel moved to Moab, we read Yahweh our Elohim has cut together with us a covenant on the Horeb. Points back to beginning at Exodus 19:5, okay, where it says, "Not with our fathers has Yahweh cut this very covenant," where now in Moab, the covenant that is to confirm them back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is still according to the order of Aaron under the Levitical priesthood. Deuteronomy 17:9, when you have come to the priests, the Levites, etc., or let me add that the Ark of the Covenant, also mentioned 4 times in Deuteronomy, corresponds to the Levitical priesthood, the covenant of Moses. So when we come back to Hebrews 7, hence, if accomplishing was through the Levitical priesthood, for the people having been law set on by it, which need is there still for an ulterior priest to let rise? Yeshua, the Christ, according to the order of Melchizedek, which Melchizedek corresponds to Abraham. In fact, there are only 2 mentions of Melchizedek in the Old Testament. Genesis 14:18, and he blessed and spoke, "Blessed is Abraham, for El of the uppermost is the acquirer of the heavens and the earthland," and etc. So Melchizedek corresponds with Abraham in the covenant that follows in the next chapter. Right here. And then Melchizedek is also mentioned in Psalms 110:4, which the writer of Hebrews is quoting. And if you want to read more about Melchizedek, well, we see his name mentioned 8 times in the book of Hebrews only. Now, let me also emphasize that it was strictly required that all priests under the Mosaic law and covenants be Levites out of the tribe of Levi. Where if we move down here now, we read how the Lord, Yeshua, Jesus, was out of Judah, okay, towards which Moses spoke not one thing concerning priests. But Moses did speak concerning Yeshua, the prophet. In Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 15 specifically, when Moses speaks of "like me," speaking of the prophet, takes us back to Hebrews chapter 3. So we see Moses being contrasted with Christ. The dwelling of Moses and the dwelling of Christ. But Christ as Son is faithing over his dwelling site, in contrast to Moses. So the context of the like me is speaking of Yeshua, the ulterior priest in the order of Melchizedek, out of the tribe of Judah, not Levi. Let's look at these verses side by side, okay? Deuteronomy 18:15. A prophet out of your interior, out of your brothers, like me, like Moses, hence the one making him as also like Moses was in his whole dwelling. See? So the prophet, like Moses, is him, the Christ, according to an ulterior priesthood that was not the Levitical priesthood in the order of Aaron. So no, the Mosaic covenant in the order of Aaron is not part of the Abrahamic covenant in the order of Melchizedek.